Superman number 0, written by Scott Lobdell, art by Kenneth Rocafort. This is Jor-El discovering that the planet Krypton is going to die. It's all narrated by Superman, by the way, and he's basically saying, like, wow, weren't my parents so cool? So just know that's happening in the background. We have Jor-El down in like a mech suit in close to the planet's core, I guess. He says he's 3Z Tektrons beneath the surface. I don't know what that means. But anyway, he's down there, he's getting some readings, and he's like, ah, crap. I had thought the planet was going to die up on the surface, so I came down here to get more info, and I was right, and there's nothing we can do. The planet is doomed. So his wife calls, and her name is Laura, and she's like, hey, I set a timer for when your suit was going to be out of air, and it's about to go off, so maybe you should get up here. And he's like, psh, I got plenty of time. But then his alarm goes off. He's like, okay, I'll be right up. So he makes his way up, and he uncovers a little side of the wall that looks like something organic was crawling out of it, and he's like, nothing should be able to live down here. Does anyone even know this is here? So he goes and takes some readings real quick, and it turns out that there's some somewhat alive goop on his suit, and the goop starts like burning through the mech suit. He's still miles beneath the surface, so he has to very quickly make his way up. Suit's warning him, like, danger, you will experience decompression, like toxic decompression, if you come up this quickly. He's like, yeah, well, I'm going to die if I don't, so here we go. So he busts his way up to the surface, gets out of his mech suit. He has to lose all of his research that he got down there in the process, but when he gets up to the top, he's like, okay, I need to go back down there again because I lost my research. And they're like, okay, we need to get clearance again because you just literally wrecked an entire mech suit, so chill. So then he goes and talks to a friend named Krahu, and I got to tell you, this dude looks like young Morgan Freeman, just 100%. It's the first thing I saw looking at him. But anyway, Krahu is, I guess, someone who's higher up in the council, and Jor-El's like, hey, can you let them get me back down there? And he's like, look, you pissed a lot of people off because you keep on, like, saying it's for, you basically aren't playing the political game. You're just focusing on the science, and that's not okay with the Science Council, but, like, I will put in a good word. And he's like, thank you. You are a very good friend of mine, Krahu. So he heads home, and he's thinking about, like, oh no, there must be some way to save the people. I have to do something. His wife comes up and tells him, like, hey, by the way, I'm pregnant. And she's like, oh, that's incredible. That's great. I'm so happy for us. Oh, God, I got to figure out something. So then they look over the balcony, and the science center that I just came from explodes. And Laura is, I guess, some sort of nurse, physician. She is immediately like, oh, there's going to be injured people. We got to go. And he's like, yeah, I'll be right after you. That explosion cannot be coincidence, considering that is literally like where I just came from and would have been my only way back down to the core of the planet. So he thinks there's some sort of conspiracy to stop him from getting back down there. He immediately rushes after Laura in order to stop her from going there, because clearly the conspiracy would want to kill him and his family too. And when he gets out to the front room, Laura's being held hostage by some group of, I forget her name, Arana is the woman who's leading them. And he's like, hey, you're going to listen to what we have to say, or we're going to kill your wife slowly. And Jor-El's like, please, there's no need for bloodshed. And Arana's like, too late for that. We're gonna do what we have to. And Jor-El's like, I wasn't talking to you. And immediately Laura starts kicking all of their asses, because I guess she learned all of her skills at a military academy. So they all start going down from Laura. They manage to make a mild escape as even more backup shows up, apparently coming from basically a doomsday cult that is being led by a being called the Eradicator. And they're like, all right, we got to kill Jor-El before he heralds the doomsday, before it's like, while they can still do something about it. So Laura's asking what the hell's going on. Jor-El's like, can we just table that for like just a second? And so she's like, all right, fine. Just give me a minute. So she splits off. Jor-El's still being hunted down by the rest of the guys. And they start like, monologuing their whole plan of like, yes, it's a doomsday cult. We will be taking out all life in the galaxy, if not the omniverse. And Jor-El's like, okay, by the way, this is my Phantom Zone projector. And he immediately zaps all of them except for the one girl, Arana, into the Phantom Zone. And Arana comes up with a gun to his head, and she's like, you could have joined us, Jor-El. That's the whole reason we came here today. But then Laura comes up, stabs her in the side, and says like, well, I missed her vital organs, but she'll think twice about showing up again. And Arana's down on the ground. She's like, oh, there's nothing you can do, Jor-El. It's too late. And she starts like self-destructing. And she's like, the only thing we can trust in the universe is death. and she fades away. And like I said, Superman Kal-El has been narrating this whole thing. And he's like, and how do I know all of this, you ask? Because I was there. And we see Kal-El in like a black suit on top of one of the buildings saying like, I am Kal-El and I am Krypton's last son. So somehow he traveled back in time to Krypton and saw this happening. Guess we'll get there. Short little epilogue. Some other place on Krypton on top of Mount Rao, some being arrived in a spaceship. He is a herald for a divine beast who has existed since the beginning of the universe and will exist till the end, called the Oracle. And he goes up to the top of Mount Rao, the herald does, and he blows his mighty horn. And then I guess Krypton is doomed, but it says it can only be saved now by the last son. So yeah, I don't know. We're just setting up more future stuff. I mean, it's fine. It's the story of Krypton exploding just slightly before that, where Jor-El's making the decision, and we find out that it's actually maybe something of a doomsday cult, which I don't know if I like, because there is something to it being just an unavoidable thing that happens because of either their own hubris of not listening or just natural disaster, just accidental. So there is something to say about that. For it to be some part of a mastermind plan of a villain is kind of like, I'm not a huge fan of that, but it's not the worst. So overall, I would say this is like Kenneth Rockford art really busted up, so I'm going to give it a 7.5. It looks fantastic, and it does give just a bit more characterization, along with setting up future plots. So 7.5, I definitely did like it. Enjoy it sounds like a strong word, but I liked it.